I'm Daniel Bobick, Managing Director with TBM Consulting Group. As we all know, in early March, the U.S. imposed tariffs that have reshaped the global economic landscape. These tariffs continue to show concern across the manufacturing sector as businesses try to understand the potential impact and how they should respond. I have reached out to our manufacturing leaders to weigh in on these concerns and how manufacturing leaders should be thinking about navigating these obstacles. Bill, what's driving companies to rethink their supply chain and operational strategy right now?
Daniel, thanks for asking that. It's a great question. There's probably as much disruption in the supply chain world as I can recall in a very long time. And part of the disruption clearly is policies like tariffs that are being set by both the U.S. government and in response, other governments. But I think this is just another element of how supply chains were going to need to reshape themselves overall. They're finding that the risk of supply is too high in some cases. They're finding they're not recognizing all of the cost savings they expected. In some cases, just managing the breadth and complexity of their supply chains is proving to be a big challenge for some companies. So I think, the tariffs and the responses by governments are the catalyst that's driving it for sure. But I think there's also elements of people stepping back and now taking a broader look at their supply chains, their business, about where are we sourcing product? How are we bringing it together? And ultimately, how does it connect to serve the customer base of the markets we serve, which is really where you ought to start in most cases. But I think people more frequently start on the other end of where they're going to source as opposed to how they serve. But I think the tariffs are just one reason why things are changing, but I think people are recognizing that there's other reasons to change, like risk and just cost of managing their supply chains.
David, when does a manufacturing leader know if and when a relocation is necessary for the business?
Well, Daniel, if and when are two really good questions to ask. Firstly, manufacturers need to get real data on what their total cost of ownership is and do some analytics around that information. The TCO model is a really good tool to use, and I would not overlook the incentives that may be available in respective regions that you may be relocating to. The second thing that manufacturers need to do at their operations or their suppliers is to look at the operational improvement opportunities within their production or their suppliers' production facilities. Very often, even if a lot of work's been done, there's additional improvements that can be made. They call continuous improvement a journey instead of a destination for a reason. The other thing that you might want to consider is to diversify your actions. In this very uncertain time, you may want to look at two options instead of just a single option.
Andre, where do you see companies get stuck between strategy and execution?
Very good question, Daniel. The biggest gap on that topic of strategy and execution is follow through. Companies often react quickly to external shocks, like the tariffs now, by building a new strategy or a cost-cutting roadmap. Nevertheless, many to all fail, and they fail to execute because they lack the operational discipline to translate plans into consistent daily actions. The gap between running daily business and changing course is a capability and a capacity gap. They don't have the people. It takes different skills and thinking to change the course of a company versus running day-to-day business. And there's no rhythm cascading from the shop floor to the top floor. And that's where precision of execution closes this gap. Precision of execution is about building behaviors, standards, and routines in an organization to make strategy become action, and actions lead to result. Every shift, every line, every day. That's what enables real change in performance.
Alberto, if moving operations isn't the right option, what can companies do operationally to offset the impact of tariffs?
Okay, thank you, Daniel. You need to know where you could improve. So therefore, companies need to diagnose, I think, to understand where they're standing. So probably companies know they need to improve in productivity, need to improve in the quality of their products, or maybe respond faster to changing customer needs. Also, reduce operating costs is an alternative, or at least sustain performance improvement year over year. If that is the case, because companies have decided not to move or relocate, we suggest that they can give them the chance to diagnose their current situations and make a business case. So start by diagnosing your current situation, and also you can consider make a dramatic performance improvement that impact your customer satisfaction, something that your clients can detect easily, or make significant improvements to inventory receivables as an example. And I think finally, improve their maintenance, because without the proper maintenance, operational excellence can be achieved.
Shang, relocating manufacturing operations is a very complex undertaking. What is one essential piece of advice you could offer to leaders as they begin this journey?
Undertaking a plant relocation is more than just moving production lines. It requires detailed planning, well coordination, and excellent execution. There are a number of things need to be considered, such as new plant selection, plant detail, new layout, operation feasibility to transition plan, production ramp-up, supply chain setup, and so on. Beyond the operation size, company also need to consider things like local culture, regulation, compliance requirements, and employment laws. Our team have worked with the manufacturer to help them develop and executing relocation the plants across different countries and regions in past 25 years. Working with a professional partner like TBM, company may ease the challenge and meeting their goals for long-term growth.
Bill, what changes are you seeing in how companies stay resilient and agile in a rapidly evolving environment?
Thanks, Daniel. Great question. So the way people are approaching how to be more resilient and more agile with their businesses, they're really using several different ways of looking at the business from almost a 360 perspective. They're using data, analytics, AI to understand what's going on in the business, quickly get to what processes, what things are challenges for them and could be impacting their performance and ability to deliver to customers in the markets. They're also using just general supply chain risk analysis to look at where do they have risk throughout the supply chain because of governmental issues, because of disruptions in transportation, availability of materials, and then thinking about how can they mitigate that, right? The other one, the other way they're looking at it from an agility perspective is where do we have longer lead times? What's driving our total time to deliver products or services to the market? And how can we shorten that? Because as we all know, shorter lead times are more agility and give us the ability to shift as the markets and our customers shift, and hopefully ability to shift faster than they do, right? So we can respond. So there's a little bit of both the resiliency of thinking about how do we respond to problems, how do we mitigate problems, what are the drivers to our performance in the business, and how do we action those to make them better, and then how do we focus on lead time to become more agile and ability to respond quicker.
Look, we all know that tariffs will impact companies in different ways. Successfully overcoming these challenges requires partnering with experts in supply chain and relocation strategy to maintain production and stay on track with business goals. We're here to help. Contact us at tbmcg.com.